Dave, we have a special guest today. Tell us all about this.
Well, Rick, as big time.
Don't tell us everything because we still have to do the interview. But give me a thumbnail sketch.
Well, as you know, we're big time publishers, and we're going to have one of our authors on, and his name is Lou Macaluso.
Yeah.
And Lou wrote a book, a wonderful book, really an inspiring book, Leaving Glory for Greatness. And it's a biography of a very notable Chicago athlete.
Yeah.
But athlete turned civil rights activist.
Right.
And his name is LaMarr Thomas.
I'm seeing where the greatness is, and I'm seeing where the glory is.
Right.
But we'll have to
see how he left glory
we'll
for
have
the
to
greatness.
Paint in the colors. And thankfully, Lou Macaluso will be here to do that because it's time for Minutia Men's Celebrity Interview.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Men Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
Dave, our guest today, it's one of our rare repeat guests here at Minutia Men Celebrity Interview. We've had Jim Peterick on 3 times. We've had John Landecker on 3 times. Anthony Scaramucci twice. And now a return appearance for one of our favorite authors, Chicagoan Lou Macaluso. Welcome to the show, Lou.
Lou, you're like the Saturday Night Live hosts that do more than one.
Right.
Who is it? Martin Short?
You know what really hit me when you said that is I'm in the same category as the Mooch.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just whatever. I'll report this.
3 more times and you get a blazer.
Yeah.
So,
right. 7 more times you get the key to the executive Minutia Men bathroom.
I don't think I want that.
No,
right.
You really don't.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you have a new book out. It's it's a book that has actually been flying off the Eckhart's Press shelves over the holidays here. Leaving Greatness for Glory is the life story of LaMarr Thomas. And I think before you tell us anything else, you got to tell us a little bit about who this man was. Who was LaMarr?
LaMarr Thomas actually went to the same high school I did, Thornton Township High School. He was a senior when I was a freshman. When he was at Thornton, he was a high school All-American at football and basketball. He led his teams to state championships. But more importantly, when he graduated as an honor student, he went on to Michigan State University, and he played for the legendary Duffy Doherty, and he was the lead rusher for the Michigan State Spartans. And also, he was actually, I think, the 8th leading rusher in the Big Ten at the time. At any rate, he was one of the number 1 pro football prospects. Most of the NFL teams at that time were looking at him, particularly George Halas, who, when Gale Sayers ran 6 touchdowns in one game and broke an NFL record, he arranged for LaMarr and Gale to have dinner together, even though LaMarr was just a senior in high school at the time. At any rate, LaMarr gave all that up.
No, wait. So before you go on, we're talking like 1965 or so, 66.
1966. Okay. 1966. That era, anyway. And when he went to Michigan State, he was, as I said, an all-conference running back in 1968. They had an interesting rule back then. If you were a freshman in any collegiate sport, the NCAA did not allow you to participate in a varsity sport until your sophomore year.
Right.
So they had to wait a year. But anyway, his sophomore year, he broke all kinds of records at Michigan State. But during that spring, he was very much concerned and concerned, I guess, is not a strong enough word. He was upset about a lot of the discrimination that was going on at MSU. And he formed something called the Black Student Alliance. which now is prevalent in not only colleges but in high schools and even junior highs all over the nation. But he started it by bringing together a lot of the black athletes from Michigan State, and they brought their concerns to their mentor, a guy named Robert Lee Green. And Robert Lee Green was Martin Luther King's educational consultant for the Southern Christian Leadership Convention. At any rate, they brought their concerns. They started the very first all-black athlete boycott in any university. And after 2 days, the athletic director, a guy by the name of Biggie Munn, who actually was a...
You made that name up. There's no way that's the guy's name.
I did not make that name up.
It's a stage name.
I did not make that name up. I swear to God. I know it sounds like something from a bad novel, but no, Biggie was a self-proclaimed racist. He was one of these guys that thought it was a big mistake to bring Jackie Robinson into the big leagues. That's how bad he was. And anyway, they brought some demands to him, and he laughed at them and crossed them out. One of the demands was to have at least one assistant black coach at any sport, at any level. And Biggie just laughed and said Negroes, as referred to back then, he didn't think were smart enough to coach at the time.
Jeez.
Well, they weren't sure what to do about all of that, and then something happened that spurred them on, and unfortunately it was the assassination of Martin Luther King, and that is what spurred the boycott, and the boycott got national attention. So Biggie was a little embarrassed by this, and he caved in after about 2 days. LaMarr went back to practice after those 2 days, and although he had spent 6.5 years playing organized football, mostly from both sides of the ball, he never sustained an injury. But after the first scrimmage, the pile unpiled up, if you will, and he was writhing in pain from a knee injury. A lot of people suspected that it was payback from some of his less sympathetic teammates, and there were quite a few of them, mostly the white teammates, not all of them, and even some of the black teammates. But anyway, LaMarr never blamed anybody. But after knee surgery, he decided to quit football, and he became an activist. And he worked with Dr. Robert Lee Green, and together they wrote scholarly books and papers about black activism and civil rights. And at any rate, he came back, and probably the biggest contribution, he worked for the EEOC. I think I get it right 50% of the time.
That's a tongue twister.
Opportunity Commission, I believe it was. Yeah. Anyway, he worked for them, and but his most probably noble accomplishment is his high school, my high school, Thornton Township High School, was actually going broke. Harvey, Illinois all of the factories had moved out. It once been the number one, or the richest tax base in the state of Illinois, and today it's the poorest. So there was there were virtually no tax money going there. Anyway, the school.
So Donald Trump lived there then.
Yeah, he had something to do with that, I'm sure. But at any rate, LaMarr put together some alumni. They formed a group called the Thornton Alumni Legacy Fund, and in short, they raised millions of dollars, saved the school, and restored it, and it's still restored today. And that's kind of an outline of who he is and basically what the book is about, although it's a lot more than that. But that's basically who LaMarr was. He passed away in 2019, by the way.
Well, it's a fascinating story, and certainly applicable nowadays with Black Lives. I mean, it's a full circle. I mean, this is, and it's a great book. And this may be easy. I know the answer to this question probably, but you wrote this book because it's a story that needs to be told, right?
Exactly, and more importantly, it was a story that a lot of alumni have bought the book, but I'm working with various high schools right now, Thornton Township High School for one. I think it's a story high school kids should read about because, even though it's decades old today, Black Lives Matter and all kinds of groups going, that are dealing with that, the problems, the racial problems, can see somebody who kind of rose out of nothing and, could have chosen a career of being a gloried pro football person and with money and so forth, and he chose another route and less glorious, but I don't know, much greater, I think.
Well, that sounds like the title.
Yeah, he left glory for greatness.
Yeah, I'm seeing where you came up with that now.
Actually, my wife came up with it.
Oh, did she? Okay.
And every time somebody gives me credit, and she's not here right now, she reminds them. So I'll put that on. Yeah.
So, not everyone in Chicago remembers LaMarr's name, but, as you mentioned, there's one place that we'll never forget him, and that's the alma mater, your shared alma mater. And that's a big part of this book. You were talking about how the alumni are supporting it, how they're going out and buying it. But this man really was like a once-in-a-generation kind of person, wasn't he?
Right. And, it's really kind of strange because I'm getting a lot of course, positive feedback from people who know him. And, this was the first time I did a biography. And I'm not sure at my age I ever want to do one again.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
I'll tell you why. Like I was mentioning to you guys, before all of this, the three of us can look at some kind of event and all, observe the same things. 10 years from now, somebody asks us what happens, and the answers will be the descriptions will be similar, but there'll be a lot of things different. And I was worried about the fact that when I wrote this, so many people had witnessed him in various situations that I describe in the book. That they would say this was wrong and that was wrong, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I got more people saying, yeah, I remember that now. And one of the people who I was really worried about was his widow because she helped so much, and I think I got the best review from her, and that was a sigh of relief for me anyway. But no, it was quite a project for me. And different.
What I love about book, especially all the references to all the people that he had met. I mean, his path crossed, some of the biggest names in the sports world, but also the civil rights community, which you had mentioned. Tell us a little bit about some of the sports legends that made an appearance that make
one of them, and this is one that I found interesting because even younger people may remember Bubba Smith, who was quite an outstanding athlete in the pros and at Michigan State. But then he went on to make movies,
right,
yeah.
And he got to be known through all those Police Academy movies and
the
forth.
light beer commercials. Don't forget those.
Yes, yeah. You're right. The light beer commercials. And what's interesting is Bubba was the complete antithesis of LaMarr, where LaMarr was a kind of a quiet, shy hero. You didn't mess with him, but Bubba Bubba was well loved at Michigan State, but he was also kind of a clown. They used to call his Cadillac he drove around at Michigan State University the Bubba Mobile. And before games, they used to chant outside his dorm room, "Kill Bubba, kill."
That's nice, isn't it?
And that's funny. He was kind of flamboyant, wasn't he?
Right. And one of the stories that I love is, well, Bubba used to talk about himself in third person a lot. You know, Bubba does this and Bubba does that. And the night before what was called the Game of the Century, and this was in, I believe it was 1966, it was going to decide who was number one, Michigan State or Notre Dame. The night before the game, Bubba got pulled over by the police for a number of outstanding tickets and was put in jail.
Oh.
And the name comes up again. Biggie Munn.
Yeah.
Biggie Munn bailed him out and threatened to have the police chief fired.
Don't you know we have a big game tomorrow?
Yeah, you got a big game tomorrow. So, you know, and of course, Bubba loves saying, "Bubba's sorry," and that's all he said.
I love it.
Yeah, the rumor was too, Bubba used to show up to classes, and he was one of those that actually I put in the book. One of the things that bothered LaMarr is that, you know, they kind of forced him and other athletes to take classes like Football in Your Future 101.
Yeah, exactly.
Advanced Football in Your Future 307.
Yeah, right.
And so they could stay eligible. And LaMarr boycotted against it. Bubba loved it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was some of the players used to say he used to come into lecture rooms, raise his hand, and the professor would say, "Yes, Mr. Smith," and he would say, "Bubba's tired. He's going back to the dorm," and would go back. And that was his life. But anyway, that was one of the more prominent people that are mentioned in there. But there were others also.
And civil rights leaders too. I mean, you mentioned Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King. Dr. Robert Lee Green is about 90 years old now, and he is the one I mentioned who was Dr. King's educational advisor, if you will. And when he passed away, Dr. Green calls me to this day about every other week or so. And first he would call me and say, "Where are my books?" You know, and I said, "Well, they're coming, Doc. They're coming." Right. You know, well, you know, you got to say and everything.
I actually was screening. I was screening his phone calls because he was mad. So I was going to do
that. But at any rate, he called me after the book was out and would just call me, and I don't want to mention this as saying he's 90 years old and senile or whatever, but it's kind of great to talk to him because he'll just have a thought about LaMarr, and he'll call me up and tell me about it. Not something that necessarily would or wouldn't go in the book, but just to say, I got to share this with somebody. LaMarr did this, or LaMarr did that, or by the way, he found a manuscript that LaMarr had sent him, and I don't know why he had never opened it, but he had opened it. And LaMarr was actually writing a biography of him shortly before LaMarr's death.
Oh, wow.
And so I'll be talking to him about that. But, he's just a great figure and still active, believe it or not, at the age of 90.
Well, if we know a publisher for this manuscript.
Yeah, exactly.
We could probably get this manuscript published.
I know.
Tom Dreesen. Go on, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I just had to extort a bunch of books from Dave the other day.
In a parking lot.
In the parking lot. It looked like we were doing a drug deal.
Yeah. We're very glamorous, Lou. Very glamorous.
Right. And I picked the Manny's parking lot because I was a little low on some brisket,
Yeah.
So I'm like,
right.
Multitasking.
So comedian Tom Dreesen, friend of our show.
Yeah.
He's been a guest on.
Tom he's a friend of mine. I kid him because he's 10 years older than me and can't do a damn thing about it. But anytime any of our books come out, Tommy always helps me along with some reviews, and I do the same for him and so forth. But Tommy was a real good friend of LaMarr's toward the end of LaMarr's. As a matter of fact, LaMarr, he was one of the people that LaMarr called at the end of his life.
Wow.
And Tommy is, he wrote a really nice blurb for the book, and I can't say enough about the guy. I call him on occasion, but with Tommy, it's strange. You can call him; he'll pick up his phone anytime. He can be in the middle of doing a set. He can be in the middle of doing a documentary. But you never want to call him when he's on the golf course.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Oh, no. If he's on the golf course, this is out of bounds. Yeah.
Well, he's a great guy.
He
I've
really is.
met him many times over the years. So Lou, let's get to the nuts and bolts here. Where can people find your book? Do all your plugs. How do people follow Lou?
Well, before I hooked up with you guys in Eckhart's Press, we talked about this at length at one time. My other books, are available to people conventionally on Amazon and all those other online thieves. No, I mean,
we're not going to argue.
Anyway, right. It's a great way for people to get books for readers. But unfortunately, if you want to sell your book and make more than $1.65, I don't mean per book, I mean for all your book, you better go somewhere else. And one of the reasons I chose, and they can get their book through Eckhart's Press, if they, you guys can give a better.
We'll wrap that all up for you. Yes.
But I think it's important for people to know that the reason I am doing it this way is that I am not accepting any money for this in terms of royalties.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for you guys.
Yeah.
But basically, and I'm saying this somewhat embarrassed. I'm not saying it to show you how noble I am, but this would have been LaMarr's wish, is all that money is going to go to Thornton High School for their programs through TELF, because I know that's what LaMarr would have wanted. And the best way to do that would be to get the book straight from the publisher.
Or get 14 or 17 copies of the book.
Yes, right.
Yeah. But, it's, you guys are great with regard to getting the book out there and so forth, and easy to work with, being not only saying that from an author's point of view, but from people who are buying books. They can get it that way. If they want to address me through Facebook or through my email, it's loumacaluso@gmail.com. LOUMACALUSO@gmail.com. No spaces. I can direct you to getting a book. I'm right now working on trying to get some book signing gigs here for Martin Luther King Day. There's a number of things going on.
Okay.
And
that's coming up.
We're trying to get the book in possibly the Chicago public schools and some other things, because I've been told by teachers of African American history that it would be a really good asset to be in their curriculum. So besides being an interesting book for people who are interested in football, in heroes, in Black lives, Black biographies. It's also an educational book to some degree. So I am proud of it. And,
yeah, it's a good one. You should be. It's got glory. It's got greatness.
It's good.
It's got it all, Lou. And actually, we're very proud to have published it. And thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to talk to us about it on the podcast. Thanks, Lou.
Oh, I'd love to. I love talking with you guys. I was trying to figure. This is serious book and that. But every time I talk to you guys, I just think about the great interview you had with the Mooch.
Well, there you go.
I missed a lot of it because I was laughing so much. But at any rate, I'm really glad to see that I'm now on par the second time.
You are. You're tied with the Mooch right now.
So next book, you break the Mooch record, although we may have him on again before that.
That will be my goal.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lou.
Take care.
Swell guy.
When talking about LaMarr, it strikes me as how similar he is to us.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
True. But also talking to Lou, we've known Lou for years now, and Lou is not serious very often.
Yeah.
He's a jokey guy. He's a jokey guy. Yeah, we joke around with him all the time. But I can tell this
very passionate about this, and this
really
means something
a lot to him.
And it should. It's a really remarkable book. We're very proud of it, and so it's a story that needs to be told.
Go get it. It's at eckhartspress.com. Special thanks to our executive producer, Tony Lasana with opishows.com. Opie is hippo backwards, OPPIH shows.com. It's distributed by Ed Silla with Radio Misfits. Great Talk Radio isn't dead. It just moved to a better place, radiomisfits.com, and we'll be back again soon with a brand new episode of
Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The proceeding was a presentation of Opie Productions. Find our other great shows wherever you find podcasts, including opishows.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?
We are the hosts of Minutia Men. I'm Rick Kempfer.
And I'm Dave Stern.
I'm German.
I'm Jewish.
I have 3 sons.
I have 3 daughters.
I'm a Cubs fan.
I'm a Sox fan.
I have hair.
Minutia Men and Opie Show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.